This is part of my Monday Certified feature from Bare Metal Cyber Magazine, and today we are looking at GIAC Strategic Planning, Policy, and Leadership, or GSTRT. This is one of those certifications that tells you something important right away just from its name. It is not built around keyboard-heavy tasks, tool tuning, or technical troubleshooting at the deepest level. Instead, it focuses on the part of cybersecurity that deals with strategy, policy, priorities, leadership, and the ability to connect security work to business goals. That makes it a very different kind of certification from the ones many people first think about when they picture cybersecurity training.
If this certification is on your study list, a free and complete audio course is available in the Bare Metal Cyber Academy at baremetalcyber.com, complete with a study guide and a second ebook featuring 1,000 flashcard questions.
For early career professionals, GSTRT is interesting for two reasons. First, it shows what the leadership side of the field actually looks like when it is formalized into an exam and a body of knowledge. Second, it helps explain how people grow from doing security work to helping direct it. Even if you are not ready to pursue GSTRT right now, understanding what it covers can still be useful because it gives you a clearer picture of where the profession can lead over time. It helps you see how security decisions get shaped, how policies are built, and how leadership roles require more than just technical skill.
The certification itself sits in a leadership and management lane within cybersecurity. That matters because many people hear the word leadership and assume the content will be vague, generic, or soft. In reality, this kind of exam is about structure, decision-making, communication, planning, and the ability to guide a program in a practical way. It is about looking at security not only as a collection of controls and tools, but as something that has to be aligned with business priorities, risk, people, budgets, and long-term direction.
That is one reason GSTRT is usually not the first certification someone earns. Most people get the most value from it after they have already spent some time working in or around security, governance, risk, compliance, operations, or management. The material lands better.
The people who are typically best suited for GSTRT are security managers, team leads, governance professionals, security officers, program owners, and senior practitioners moving toward leadership. It can also make sense for someone who has strong technical experience but now needs to communicate with executives, shape policy, or help define a roadmap for a team or an organization. In other words, this is often a transition certification. It helps people move from being known primarily for technical contribution to being recognized for strategic judgment and leadership thinking.
Another reason GSTRT stands out is the name behind it. GIAC has a strong reputation in cybersecurity, especially among people who value serious, focused certification tracks. In the market, GIAC credentials often carry the sense that they are built for real-world relevance and thoughtful preparation, rather than easy resume decoration. That broader reputation matters because a leadership credential only works if employers trust the body behind it. When a certification says it measures judgment, planning, communication, and program thinking, the credibility of the issuer matters a lot.
GIAC is also tied to an ecosystem that has long been associated with structured cybersecurity education. That gives GSTRT a little more weight because it is not floating by itself. It exists inside a broader world of security learning, specialization, and professional development. It also fits into a life cycle where certifications are updated, refreshed, and maintained over time, instead of being left unchanged while the field moves on. That is important in leadership-focused content because cybersecurity leadership changes along with technology, threats, and business expectations.
So what does GSTRT actually test? At a high level, it tests whether you can think like someone responsible for helping shape a security program. That means understanding the business, understanding risk, understanding threats, and then turning those ideas into plans, policies, communication, and improvement efforts that other people can follow. The exam is not just asking whether you know isolated concepts, it is asking whether you can connect them in a useful way.
One major area is business and threat analysis. That means understanding the organization itself. You need to think about what the business does, what matters most to it, what kinds of risks it faces, who the important stakeholders are, and where the pressure points may be. In practice, that kind of thinking is what allows a leader to build a security program that actually fits the organization, instead of one that just looks good on paper. Good leadership in security always starts with context.
Another major area is security programs and policy. This is where the exam moves into things like roadmap development, policy creation, prioritization, and program improvement. Candidates need to think about how a security effort is structured, how goals are set, how policies are created and maintained, and how a program evolves over time. That means the exam is not just about writing down rules. It is about creating something useful, supportable, and aligned with how the organization really works.
The leadership and communication side is just as important. This includes the ability to explain security issues clearly, influence decisions, engage stakeholders, and lead teams through change. That may sound softer than the technical side of cybersecurity, but anyone who has worked in the field for even a short time knows how critical it is. A technically correct idea that nobody understands, funds, or supports is not much of an organizational win. Leadership means getting from good security thinking to actual security action.
That is why GSTRT tends to reward applied judgment more than simple memorization. Of course, you still need to know the concepts. You need to understand the language of policy, strategy, communication, planning, and governance. But the exam is likely to feel most natural to people who can interpret a situation, weigh priorities, and choose an effective path forward. This is not mainly a trivia contest. It is closer to a structured test of management-minded reasoning.
A common misconception is that leadership certifications are only for people who already hold very senior titles. That is too narrow. GSTRT is also useful for people who are on the way up, especially those who have started to take on responsibilities that go beyond individual technical contribution. If you are already briefing others, helping set priorities, writing process guidance, managing projects, or advising leadership, then you are already touching the world this exam is built around. The certification can help formalize that growth. Another misconception is that a leadership-focused certification is detached from operational reality. In practice, the opposite is usually true. It is not asking you to pretend those things live in separate boxes. It is asking whether you can think across those lines. That is what makes the certification relevant for real organizations, rather than just for theory. When it comes to exam experience, one of the most important points is that GSTRT is not a fully hands-on lab exam. That means candidates should not prepare for it as if success depends on command memorization or technical execution speed alone. Instead, the right preparation style is broader and more structured. You want to understand the ideas, organize the material well, and practice moving from concept to decision. It is a different kind of readiness. It is also important to remember that open book does not mean easy. In fact, many candidates find open book certification exams challenging in a different way because they create a false sense of comfort if you are not careful. The real advantage of an open book format only appears if your materials are organized, your notes are useful, and your index is strong. If you do not know where things are, the clock can become your real enemy. That means part of your preparation is not just learning the content, it is also building a system that helps you navigate it efficiently under pressure. A good study plan for GSTRT starts with understanding the exam objectives at a high level. Before you dive too deeply, make sure you can explain what the certification is trying to measure. Once that is clear, move into deeper study of the major ideas: business context, threat awareness, program design, policy development, leadership communication, and change management. After that, start turning the material into something active. Build a roadmap, outline a policy, map stakeholders, draft a short executive briefing. The more you make the material do work, the more useful it becomes in your memory.
That active practice matters because GSTRT is about producing clarity from complexity. It is about turning a messy organizational environment into understandable priorities, structured policy, and a practical plan. So if all your preparation is passive reading, you may know more than you think you do, but you may still struggle to apply it quickly. The better approach is to keep asking yourself simple questions. What is the business issue here? What is the security issue? What matters most? Who needs to be convinced? What should happen first? What belongs in policy and what belongs in procedure or roadmap? Those are the kinds of habits that help the content feel real.
For busy professionals, it helps to break study into phases. In the first phase, focus on broad understanding. In the second phase, tighten the weak areas and start creating structured notes. In the third phase, practice exam-style thinking and improve your index so you can move fast when needed. This is also where the Bare Metal Cyber Academy can fit naturally into the process. The free audio course developed by Bare Metal Cyber can help you stay connected to the material during commutes or workouts. The study guide can give you a deeper, more organized pass through the topics. The flashcards ebook can help reinforce the vocabulary, distinctions, and recurring concepts that need to stay fresh. That kind of multi-format approach is especially helpful with leadership-oriented material because the ideas benefit from repetition in different forms. Hearing them explained, reading them in sequence, and reviewing them in short bursts can make the concepts feel more stable and easier to use. That matters a lot when the content is about judgment and communication instead of simple one-line definitions. Repetition helps the thinking become natural.
Time management is another part of preparation that should not be ignored. Candidates often focus so much on learning the content that they forget the exam is still a timed event. You need a strategy for pacing, for deciding when to move on, and for using your materials without getting lost in them. That is why practice and organization matter so much. Confidence on this kind of exam does not usually come from trying to memorize everything. It comes from knowing the structure of the material, knowing your own weak spots, and trusting your process.
From a career perspective, GSTRT supports a very specific kind of growth. It does not say you can do every job in security. Instead, it signals that you are building capability in the areas that matter when security work has to be led, explained, prioritized, and improved. That can be valuable for people stepping into management, expanding governance responsibilities, leading teams, or taking ownership of larger program decisions. It is often most useful when you are trying to show that your role is growing beyond execution and into direction. Hiring managers are likely to view it through that lens. They are not going to treat GSTRT as proof that you are a pen tester, an incident responder, or a malware analyst, but they may see it as evidence that you understand how security programs function at the leadership layer. That can help when the job involves policy, communication, roadmap planning, stakeholder engagement, or management responsibilities. In those situations, the certification can help make your trajectory easier to understand. Where it fits in a broader path depends on your goals. For some people, GSTRT is a later stage credential that comes after years of technical and operational experience. For others, it becomes a bridge as they move into a more strategic role. If your current goal is still to build strong technical foundations, another certification may make more sense first. But if your work is starting to involve decisions, prioritization, communication, and leadership expectations, GSTRT becomes much more relevant. It is not a universal next step, but it can be an excellent targeted one. In the end, GIAC Strategic Planning, Policy, and Leadership, or GSTRT, is a certification about seeing cybersecurity as a leadership function, as well as a technical one. It is about understanding the business, interpreting risk, building policy, shaping programs,
and guiding people towards better security decisions. For early career professionals, it may not be the first credential to chase, but it is absolutely worth understanding because it shows what the next layer of the profession looks like. And for professionals who are already starting to move into that layer, it can be a very meaningful certification to pursue with intention and structure.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.